Who cares what they think? Come on, we all do. Welcome to the Weight Loss Winformation Podcast, formerly known as Berry Aftercare, the podcast. Today we're going to take a deep look at the fact that although we all care to some degree about what others think about us, some people care to such a degree that it's harming them. So overall, here's what we're going to cover in this episode. We'll talk about why we care about what other people think, and more specifically, what that has to do with your weight, with weight loss, and with maintaining weight loss. Then we're going to talk about how do I know if I'm caring too much? When is this a problem? Finally, we'll talk about how we can work to care less about what people think of us and more about what's right for us. We'll end with this week's Get Real Winformation activity. But let's go ahead and start by being real. It's normal. It's normal for us to care about how other people perceive us. We all want people to like us. We all want people to respect us. And almost everybody on the planet, at some time or another, thinks about what people might be thinking about them. The question is, how much do you think about what other people think about you? That's a convoluted question, isn't it? How much do you think about what other people think about you? If you're a person who spends a whole lot of time worrying about the thoughts that other people have about you, it could lead to some problems. And as we'll find out, it could lead to some pretty significant mental health problems. So let's do a mini experiment. I want you to pause for a minute and I'll stop talking, but think about one of your most embarrassing moments in life. I hope it's legal for me to sing that song. All right. Whatever came to your mind, my guess is that you remember how old you were when this thing happened. You might even remember tremendous amount of detail, what you were wearing, who was with you, where this thing took place, what was said, who said it, or was it something that you did that you were mortified about? When I was doing research for this episode, I came across an example. And what was it? It was like, do you remember the time in your middle school class when you said orgasm instead of organism in science class? And I thought that was pretty funny. And they said, probably nobody in the class remembers that except for you. And I'm going to share with you one of mine. And it wasn't something that I did, but it was something that impacted the way I focused on how other people thought about me. And I've shared this with you before, so some of you have heard this story before, but it was a series of events, and it kind of highlighted or magnified something I was already thinking about myself. So here's what happened. I was, yes, in middle school. And middle school, of course, is a time when we're all worried about what other people think about us. We want to fit in. We want to, we all want to be one of the popular kids, or, all right, maybe not everybody wants that, but we all want to belong. And we don't want to stand out in any way. Well, I was a late bloomer. And like my hair is now, it was short then. So I was riding my bike home from my good friend's house, and she lived about 4 or 5 blocks from where I lived. And in order to get to my house, I had to ride past one of the popular boys' houses. And his happened to be a house where a lot of people hung out. So It was not unusual to see a group of the boys hanging out at this kid's house. So a lot of the 7th and 8th grade boys would be out tossing a football in the front yard. So here I come, riding my little 10-speed bike, and I ride past them. Of course, I try to hope they don't see me, and I definitely don't acknowledge any of them. And I hear one of them shout, "Over the shoulder, nothing holder." Oh my God, I wanted to absolutely die and crawl into a gutter. And probably none of those boys remember that event. But I can tell you, I do. And I can remember, I swear to God, I can remember what I was wearing. And even as I talk about it, I literally am feeling my face flush. It was so embarrassing, and I felt so ashamed of my body. I already thought I looked like a boy, and now I felt I had confirmation of knowing what other people thought about me. Clearly, I did. Obviously, I wasn't the only one who noticed my lack of physical development, and that is a difficult thing whether you're a male or a female. I think life is tough for early bloomers, especially girls who develop very young, and it's very difficult for late bloomers, male and female, because we look behind the curve. And I went to a Catholic school, and the uniform was white button-down blouses so everybody could see which girls wore a bra. And I was too embarrassed to ask my mom to get me one, even though I surely didn't need one. Well, that was just one incident. And unfortunately, there were 3 incidents that happened within a short period of time during those early middle school years for me, when 2 strangers literally mistook me for a boy, and they called me a boy. Once my family was on vacation. Well, 2 of these incidents happened on the same vacation. Oh my God. We went to a restaurant, and one of the waitresses said to me, "Oh, I didn't know we could fill little boys up." Oh, jeez. The very next day, the guy behind the counter, when I went to mail a postcard, I was with my brother, and he said, "How can I help you boys?" Oh my God. And that's fine if you want to look and be referred to as a boy. But I did not. I wanted to look like and be referred to as a girl. Oh my gosh. So here are these people commenting on something that I'm already struggling with. And the more sensitive we are to something, the more we begin to wonder and worry about what other people think about us. And a lot of the times, if you think about it, it's because we're already feeling self-conscious and we're ashamed of this thing that we're being picked on by others. So I'm already, to begin with, feeling self-conscious about my body. Then I have 3 people confirming that apparently other people are thinking this too. And so now it is set in my head that when people look at me, they think I look like a boy. And it has taken much of my life to overcome that. And let's think about kids who struggle with their weight. If you're somebody who struggled with your weight for a long time, especially when you were a kid, and if your weight has been an internal source of shame or embarrassment for you. Now, it's not for some people. Some people, it doesn't bother them. They get on with their life. It doesn't affect them, outwardly anyway. And some people, it's like, you know what? I never let it stop me from doing what I wanted in my life. That's great. But for a lot of people who struggle with weight or whatever their particular thing is, it is a source of pain, especially if they've been picked on because of that thing. So when we're talking about weight, if you've had people make fun of you because of your weight, or if people have ignored you because of your weight, or if you've had medical professionals perhaps blame every medical thing or every emotional thing on something to do with your weight, then it makes sense that you'd be pretty darn sensitive to what other people might think about you. It's normal that you'd be sensitive to, oh God, what are they going to say to me? Oh my gosh, how are they going to treat me? Especially in relation to that weight. And there's science that shows this. This is interesting. I read some, of course, I'll link all these articles to the show notes, but I read this article talking about some research that uses brain scans. And these brain scans actually confirm that our self-confidence is affected by what we think other people think of us. Hold on. The less self-confidence we have, therefore, the more we tend to worry about what other people think about us. So what these brain imaging scans showed is these biophysical reactions. In other words, these chemical responses in the brain. So they hook people up. And when people started suffering from this fear of shame and fear of, and they started thinking low self-esteem thoughts, the same areas of the brain lit up when they thought other people were thinking negative things about them. And it's about fear. We fear, oh my God, what are they going to think? What are they going to think about me? And a lot of this is based on how I feel about myself, based on past experiences. So if you've struggled with weight, and especially if you're a young child and you had people that you depended on, and helped shape your self-worth, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your peers, your teachers, if these people, when you were young, negatively commented on your weight, children do what's called internalizing, and they internalize the message that, wow, all these people are criticizing me about my weight or telling me I need to lose weight or making fun of me because of my weight. It can also be other issues. But the internalization means I take that to heart, and now I think something's wrong with me in relation to my weight or whatever this other issue is. My feeling like I looked like a boy. My self-esteem was damaged. I felt less secure about myself. My confidence level dropped. And now I'm going out into the world fearing what other people are thinking about me. And so if you've had that issue with weight, it would make sense, especially if this started at an early age, that you would have quite a bit of fear and reservation about being judged by other people because that's been your experience. But put in simpler terms, if you have low self-esteem, wherever it derived from, your brain is then more attuned to other people's opinions. And your brain even tends to mirror their brain activation. And we talked about that with Dr. Joan Brugman a few episodes ago about how our brains will imitate or mirror those of what other people have going on around us. So people whose self-esteem was damaged, maybe by negative comments by other people, or being made fun of by peers, or being criticized or left out, those who grow up without emotional support are really more likely to care too much about what other people think of them. And since this podcast is directed at people who've been struggling with weight to whatever degree, or have, wanted to lose weight or in the process, or are trying to maintain weight loss, you may have a history that is similar to what I'm talking about here. So it would make sense if you're like, I'm pretty sensitive to what other people think about me. Give yourself a little break here, because it's logical. It's partly biology, what's going on in your brain, and it's partly how you're perceiving yourself. And that can be changed, so there's a lot of hope. There was a research meta-analysis, which means they looked at a lot of data, and this was in 2020. It was about self-esteem and social relationships. And what it revealed is a reciprocal link, meaning one affects the other and the other affects the one. Positive social interactions, this is not going to come as a shock, right? But positive social interactions enhance self-esteem, and negative experiences lower self-esteem. So if you're having negative social experiences, especially the younger you are, if you were last to be picked on sports teams or at recess like I was, if you were picked on because of your weight or other issues, it makes sense that these negative social interactions would lead to your having low self-esteem and doubting yourself. Therefore, it makes you more sensitive to what other people are thinking about you. And a lot of the things we take to heart, these opinions of other people, it's really, really critical. And like I said, if this starts happening when you're young, it's really going to be difficult to overcome that as a young person because you don't have the skills or the tools. And a lot of adults don't either. But that's part of what this podcast is about. It's about giving you some tools to use to help with not only your self-esteem, but to lessen the impact that what other people have, what the thoughts that other people have about you, how that influences you. Now, in the world of psychology, I'll just give you this little tidbit. It may or may not matter to you, but there's this thing called sociocultural theory by Lev Vygotsky. And his theory says that human development begins at a social level between individuals. So if you think about a baby and a caregiver, you have that social interaction between, eye contact and being picked up and smiled at, and that starts the development and the self-esteem. If you're getting positive cues from the people, even as an infant and as a toddler, and then on into childhood, these social interactions become internalized on this personal level, meaning within you. So if you've got negative, this is kind of a repeat, but if you're told negative things, you internalize the idea that there's something wrong with me. If you're told you're a good boy, you're a good student, you're a good athlete, you're a good this, you're a good that, you're going to start to feel like, I'm pretty good at these things. And your self-esteem is going to be more positive. All right. Now, here's the problem. If we take other people's opinions as truth, so if I buy into, at whatever age, but if I buy into what other people think about me, and this, of course, is my perception about what other people think about me, and I think that is truth. So everybody thinks I'm less than, which is by definition what shame is. So people have shown me through their interactions with me that I am less than the other kids. This can lead to a really vicious cycle of insecurity and a lot of vulnerability. So again, it makes sense if you've experienced these negative social interactions, especially starting from a young age, that you would start to believe that other people's beliefs about you are the truth with a capital T. The truth. Not their truth or a possibility, but that's the way it is. And if they're thinking this about me, it must be true. And this leads to problems. One of the authors that I read about noted that self-esteem is truly very influenced by two primary factors. One, our perceptions about how other people view us. And check that out. It's perception. Our perception about how other people view us. Meaning, what I'm thinking they're thinking of me. I may not know what they're thinking about me, but my belief, where they're looking at me, they think I'm a loser. They're looking at me, they're thinking about how much I eat. They're looking at me, they're thinking I eat all the time. They're looking at me, they think I'm lazy and worthless. That's my perception. So, even though it's my own perception, I've created that to be my reality of what they're thinking. And that is definitely going to impact my self-esteem. And the other one is the degree to which we depend on those perceptions. So if we really look to others to determine our own self-worth, and if we perceive them to be having negative thoughts, we're kind of done in here, right? We're really doing it ourselves in, because our perception is what's determining. It's almost like we're creating this negative thought loop. So I'm looking at so-and-so, and I'm thinking so-and-so thinks I'm worthless. I can just tell that's what they're thinking about me. And I'm feeling pretty lousy about myself because a lot of people have treated me that way. Therefore, I guess they're right. And I'll either shy away or I'll come out bold and ferocious. I'm trying to protect myself here. But I've created all of this, not as a child and not based on people's behavior towards you. But when it comes to thinking you know what other people are thinking about you, it's a self-creation. And again, it may be based on past and some other experiences, but we don't know that for sure. There were some instances at the retreat I recently held where it became very clear that people are assuming things about others, whether it's in a small group or a large group. And when you take a step back from that and really process through it like you have the ability to do in a therapy group, it becomes clear that these other people were in fact not thinking what you are imagining they are thinking, but the way you're imagining this has huge impact on you. So we have to be careful, and we'll get to this later, as I said, but not assuming we know what other people are thinking, but realizing that a lot of this is a self-perception that we're pounding ourselves with over and over and over and over again. So we have to be very careful because, again, as this author said, our self-esteem is very heavily influenced by what we think other people are thinking about ourselves and how much weight we give that. So a hint, in order for us not to be so darn concerned about what other people think, we need to focus on our own opinion. We need to recognize that we have a filter through which we perceive things. And we'll talk about that more. But let's face it, people who struggle with being overweight, especially if they've struggled with this for most of their life, that reality of being overweight negatively affects a lot of people's self-confidence and a lot of people's self-esteem. And a lot of times that's because they are treated poorly, especially as children. They may be treated poorly as adults also, or maybe they gained weight later in life and they've experienced some of those negative behaviors from others later in life. But the earlier this happens, the more it affects your self-esteem. All right, here we go. So let's talk about the reasons. We talked about some of them that we care so much about what other people think. And where does this all come from when we say it's normal, it's natural? Because humans are very social creatures, and human beings back in the day, think caveman era, had to fit in. They had to fit in because if they were ostracized, they were on their own. And who's going to hunt and gather? And who was going to kill the beasts? So people had to come together. They had to fit in. They had to belong to a little clan, or their survival was greatly threatened. Not only that, because of the way we were created to be social. So we initially evolved to survive by forming our communities and working together. And, some hunted, some gathered, some slew the beasts, some cooked the food, but feeling connected to other people is essential for human beings. Feeling accepted by other people. was critical back in the day, and it remains critical today for our mental, emotional well-being and psychological overall health. So today, just like back in the day when we don't feel accepted by the group, and by the way, this is one of the things I hear most often from the people I work with. And remember, for the last 20 years, the majority population that I've worked with have been people who have been struggling with weight issues and or other addictions. So many, not all, but many of the people with whom I have worked have said they don't feel accepted. Maybe it was by classmates as a child. Maybe they now don't feel accepted by their peers at work. Maybe they don't feel accepted by their in-laws or their extended family or by society in general. So that sense of not belonging further negatively affects our self-esteem. And we suffer. We suffer because we feel like we don't fit in, and that not feeling like we fit in and that we are different somehow, we don't belong, and I am less than, fosters our fear, not only about what other people think, but if we'll ever fit in anywhere. So even though today in our world we might not need tribes to survive like we did in the past, we do need, and we call them tribes now out there on social media. Where's your tribe? Do you have your tribe? Do you have your people? We do need our group. We do need companionship. We do need friendship. And that's a normal human thing. All humans. This applies to every single one of us. You are not terminally unique in this way. If you think you don't need other people, then you are in a serious state of denial. We need other people. We need a sense of belonging. We get that from other people. We need a feeling of survival, much of which we derive from being around other people. We have a need for safety and emotional safety and security, which again, we get from being around other people and having people in our lives who care about us. And this business of belonging helps meet a lot of our other social needs. So, social inclusion or belonging is also, it can be a good thing. Let me tell you how this can be a good thing, caring about what other people think. For one thing, when we look at other people, sometimes it teaches us how to fit in or how to belong. If you grew up in a military family, or if you moved to a different part of the country, or during a school year, or several times during your school years growing up, you're now in a new social situation. And social norms are different in different parts of the country. What kids wear, some of the hairstyles, maybe the way they talk. What's popular with one group may not be popular. How about that? I'm singing from Wicked. I just can't hear the word popular without thinking of it. Love that movie. And the soundtrack. Anyway, we want to fit in. We don't want to be ostracized. So if we look around us, we can gauge, what are other people doing? What are they wearing? What kind of hairstyles are these kids wearing? And we can sort of figure out how to fit in. And that's called social proof. It's like, oh, it's kind of like the everybody's doing it sort of thing. Everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing that. Social proof that that is acceptable behavior in this context or in this crowd. So that can be a good thing. The other thing that's good about some social scrutiny or thinking about what other people think about us is that if we want to be treated, and all people do, we want to be treated with kindness and respect. We will get more of that if we behave toward others with kindness and respect. I watched a little video the other day. I was thinking about including it in this podcast, but honestly, I didn't think it was that great. The message was okay, but part of the message that I thought was really good was that if we go, people who sometimes feel like they don't have any value or they don't matter or they're invisible, if you go out to a grocery store or to a restaurant or to a park and you smile at people, or you say something kind to someone at a cash register, more times than not, you're going to get a smile in return and a friendly comment to reciprocate your friendly comment. So one of the ways that caring about other people can work in our favor is we can get some of what we want and need by demonstrating to others that it's kind of like, what's your love language? We tend to treat others with our love language than figuring out what theirs is and serving their love language. But if we want to be treated with a smile or an acknowledgement, we can improve the odds of that happening by smiling and acknowledging the people that are around us. So that can be a good thing. But what's also true is that a lot of us are very, very guilty about worrying too much about what other people think about us. Studies show that we're consistently, here's what we do to ourselves. And again, I say what we do to ourselves. We consistently overestimate how much and how badly other people think about us. Now, that's research, friends. I didn't make that up. So when we think about what other people think about us, we're really, first of all, I got newsflash. People aren't thinking about us that much. Second of all, we tend to exaggerate how badly they're thinking about us. So we're doing that to ourselves. So one of the ways we push people away or we stay out of social interactions is by ascribing to them thoughts they're not even having. And then we may feel anger towards somebody for absolutely no reason other than what we have put into our head. So when is caring about what other people think a problem? Well, it's a problem if their opinion does you in. And when I say their opinion of you, your perception of their opinion. It's kind of like the scale. Some people get on the scale, they're like, okay, got that piece of data, and they move on. Some people get on the scale and they're like, oh my God, I suck, my day sucks, the world sucks, the life sucks, everything sucks, because the number doesn't reflect what I want it to reflect. Other people get on the scale and they're like, oh, it's going to be a great day because the scale reflects what I want to. So if you're out with other people and you get a smile back from somebody and you're like, oh, they clearly like me. Now I'm feeling better about myself and it's going to be a good day. But if you go out to the place, wherever the place is, and you smile at somebody and say something nice to them and they give you nothing back, then you think, oh, they hate me. They think I'm terrible. They're such a horrible person themselves, and there must be something wrong with me because clearly I'm not likable. We internalize that. We give our internalized thought to that person. Maybe they didn't hear you. Maybe they are focused on something else they're thinking about, and their lack of response to you was nothing about you. But now you're making it all about you. So if their opinion does you in, or your perception of their opinion does you in, this is a problem. Caring about what other people think of you is a problem when you automatically think their thoughts are true. Well, they didn't respond to me. They're not kind. They think they think I'm not worth time. They think I'm invisible. And that just reaffirms to me that it's true. They're not the only one. I am just invisible. Oh my gosh. So now I automatically assume that what other people think is true, and I'm the problem. Caring about what other people think of you is a problem when you expect they're going to be critical. Oh yeah, they're going to have something bad to say about me. They're just going to point out my flaws. I'm not taking this to them to talk about because they'll just tell me how wrong I am. And of course I'm wrong again. Oof. Dangerous self-talk, dangerous self-thoughts, dangerous to that person. They didn't do anything. This is all coming from inside your head. Remember the 4 agreements, my friends. That book, The 4 Agreements. One of them is don't take things personally. People's opinions and their thoughts not the ones you create about their thoughts. But my thoughts, my opinions are representative of me. My thoughts and my opinions are not representative of you, nor are your thoughts or opinions representative of me. They're representative of you, who you are, how you think, your life experience. Now, their observations may be about you. That's a different thing. What I mean by that is, if you look at me with an angry look on your face and I go, they're mad at me. What did I do? I must have done something to make them mad. Oh my gosh, what have I done? And I get into this fear because I'm assuming they're mad at me based on the look that they gave me. And I say, what's your deal? Why are you mad at me? And they look at me like they're confused, like, what are you talking about? I'm not mad at you. My observation to them might be, but I just saw you look at me and the look on your face was angry. Oh my gosh, they might say, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about how, I had this argument with my spouse this morning. I'm still upset about that. I was thinking about it when you looked at me. I wasn't even aware you were looking at me. That's usually the case, right? They're not even thinking about you or looking at you. And you've made up this whole scenario that they're clearly mad at you and blaming yourself. My God, what have I done? But that's how our brains tend to work, especially if we have this sense of shame or there's something wrong with me or I'm less than, because we're assuming they're thinking the worst about us. Because guess who else is? We are. All right, there's a difference between listening to our friends' concern for us and worrying about every little thing that somebody thinks about us. So, if I get the vibe that I've hurt my friends' feelings or they're angry with me, I want to know what's going on. But if all the people in the room are, preoccupied or whatever, I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, everybody's ignoring me, therefore I'm invisible. With my people that I care about, I'm going to check things out with. With people that don't really matter, I'm not going to put my perception of what they're thinking about me in their head because it doesn't really matter. So listen to your friends' concerns. Listen to their feedback for you or their observations about you. But remember, most people aren't thinking about you. All right, so let's get really, really, really practical. And I want you to think, is this me? I'm going to read off some signs that we care too much about what other people think, or that the opinions of others could be harmful to you. And that means could affect your mental health. So let me ask this as a question. Do you change yourself in response to criticism, regardless of what it is or who it comes from? In other words, you're going to be a chameleon. So one person in the room says, you know what, you look like a sourpuss and I really wish you'd smile. So you're going to make a big effort to smile and not sound like a sourpuss when you talk to this person because that's what they think about you. But another person's like, you come on to a little bit too syrupy, just get a little more genuine. So now you're going to wipe that smile off your face so much when you talk to them and come across a little more seriously. So you're trying to change yourself to fit what you think other people want you to be. That's not genuine. If that is who you are or what you find yourself doing, then you might think and worry too much about what people think about you. Or if you let other people make all the decisions for you, where you want to go to eat, what you want to go do, how much time you spend together, you give them all the power over you so they will think favorably of you. If that's you, if you're always giving in to keep the peace or make other people happy, then you probably care too much what they think about you. If you don't set or maintain boundaries, ding, 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 I would say this topic has been brought up in the over 200 episodes of the podcast that I have done because it's a sign of low self-esteem. It's a sign that maybe you think too much about what other people think about you, or you want to make other people happy because you worry about what they think about you. But if it's troublesome for you to set boundaries and maintain them, it's really about how you feel about yourself. Here's another one that we talk about so often, and about what so many people that I work with tell me they struggle with, and that is perfectionism. Because perfectionism is about, I don't want to come across in any way flawed because I don't feel good enough about myself. So if I can do everything perfectly, other people will accept me and approve of me. That's a red sign. All right, if you hold your tongue, do you hold your tongue if your opinion is different than anybody else's? In other words, you got a bunch of people saying this about this work policy, but you think differently, but you're not going to speak up because their opinions matter too much. You don't want to rock the boat. You want them to like you. So even though you may feel strongly about something in the opposite direction, you're not willing to stand up for it. Does your peace of mind rely on approval from other people? Are you like, oh my God, are you anxious? Are you worried around other people, worrying about what they're going to think about you? Or are you constantly apologizing? I'm sorry, to the point that people are saying, stop apologizing. Because a lot of times people are apologizing, they haven't done anything wrong. Is that you? Could be a sign that you worry too much about what other people think about you. How about if you rarely say no? It's kind of like the boundaries thing. You don't say no when you want to say no. Because why? You care about what they think about you. So you're not going to say no so that you fit in, so you're seen as the good guy, and then you feel resentful. So those are some signs that maybe you care too much. Now, how can we give what other people think about us less importance? Well, first of all, you need to identify your needs and learn to get them met in healthy ways, because what you're trying to do is get your need for connection, your need for approval, your need for being liked, your need for maybe having purpose, your need for belonging met by other people, but you're going about it in ways that are making you feel worse than you already do about yourself, because now you're feeling taken for granted and you're feeling taken advantage of because you're doing the things that you don't want to do because you can't set boundaries because you're worried about what people think about you. All these vicious, interconnected cycles. But just like, if we can identify our need, I need to belong, I need to have friends, I need to be part of a group, I need to be included and feel like I belong. If we can identify that, and we can learn to get these needs met in healthy ways without selling ourselves short, without having to try to mind read and acquiesce and make all the people happy, it will go a long way in maybe not eating emotionally, because a lot of our emotional eating is, I don't like how I felt about that interaction. Maybe they won't like me. Feed my face, feed my face, feed my face. Or, oh gosh, I said something and I just know they're mad about it. Feed my face to feel better. Drink alcohol, spend money, whatever it is. So if I can learn to get my needs met, I can maybe prevent some emotional eating. I can increase my self-esteem, and I can avoid engaging in self-harming behaviors of any other sort besides food. So it's going to teach me the tools. I need some tools. Where am I going to learn these tools? Therapy, I hope. One of the reasons that we can learn to care less about what other people think is to figure out, I was talking about these needs. One of our needs is a need to be seen. How can I not feel invisible? How can I feel seen by people and included? So this need to feel recognized and empowered, it's a really important thing. A, we might not know that that is a need. B, we might not have a clue how to go about getting that met. But that's what therapists are for, to help us identify and learn to meet our needs in healthy ways. But if the need that you have is so strong that It drives you to always, bowing down to the other person, caving. What do you need? What do you want? What do you need? What do you want? Then you're going to increase your invisibility. You're also going to increase your resentment. And if you don't regularly express your honest thoughts, this is where I would like to go. Really, I feel differently than most of you seem to about this work policy. If you don't take action on your preferences, then you're going to reinforce that idea that I'm invisible. And that's part of what we do that's so unhealthy. We reinforce to ourselves these negative things, like I'm invisible or I don't matter or other people don't care about me. So learning to identify our own needs, which we've talked about in other podcasts, and then have the courage to say those will help us feel seen, and it will also help us meet our need for connection, thereby decreasing the impact of what other people think about me. So if I'm going to get some fulfilling relationships, I have to learn to take risks. I have to put myself out there. I need to quit using certain things as excuses to stay away from people and protecting myself so much. So you want to find people like the women did at the retreat who really want to interact with you, but not just your superficial self, your real self, who are willing to go deep and get to know you and respect what your boundaries are. Because these are the people who want to spend time with you, not just somebody who is going to be a warm body to hang out with or to have you do all their things for them. But if they offer compliments, you might be like, oh, no. I'm going to dismiss your kind words. Saw this happen a lot at the retreat too. Well, you're a kind person and I really like, well, yeah, but you don't know the real me. Stop it. Stop it. We need to quit declining or minimizing the good things other people are giving to us. It's disrespectful to them for one thing, and they're going to go away and not come back after a while because why would they? You keep shutting them out. So it may be one of the ways you're finding to be alone, to feel bad for yourself, and to feed yourself. That might be a bad thing for you to do. All right. So if they offer you a compliment like, oh, I really appreciate you helping me with this issue, or I really appreciate you just being there with me, or I would really value your ideas about what I should wear when I go to this place. If this happens, start accepting it. Let it in. Let it soak into you so that you can meet that need for connection. Start to feel better to yourself, not feel so invisible by others, and feel appreciated instead. So practice, this conscious recognizing the honest appreciation of you. So at the retreat, when somebody got a compliment, and we did this long ago when I was in treatment, when someone gave us a compliment, the only acceptable response was, thank you, I think so too. Now, in real life, you don't need to add that, but it's a great thing to add because now you're saying thank you to them and acknowledging them, and you're acknowledging yourself by, I think so too. It's brilliant. It's repetitious. It's self-talk. Such good stuff. All right, other ideas for help when you find yourself worrying about what other people think. All right, ask yourself these questions. Do I have good reason to believe that they're going to judge me negatively? So you're around a person and you're making these assumptions that they're judging you negatively. Do I really have any reason to believe they would do that? Maybe they don't even know you. So the answer is no, I have no reason to believe that. And will they reject me? Why would they reject me? They don't know me either. So ask yourself these questions. When we talk about cognitive behavior and we talk about, challenging the thought, what is the evidence that they would be thinking that? What is the reason? Are there other explanations for how they seem to be behaving toward me? There are 1,000 of them. All right. Now, if you know this person, you think, they're kind of a judgmental person, then ask yourself, what do I fear is going to happen, whether these are realistic fears or not on my part? So you come up to me and, you say something to me or you ask me a question, and I'm fearful of what you're going to think about me. And I'm like, what if they answer me negatively? And what if they're right? And oh my God, what am I going to do then? Brace yourself and remember they're sharing with you their thoughts and their opinions, which is not about you, and that you have the right to make your own decisions and say, I asked for their opinion. They gave me their opinion. Does that fit for me? And keep in mind, part of this is in your nature. It's in your biology. We do care, but over caring, that's when we have a problem. So here's some other ideas about not getting too worked up if somebody says something to you that you perceive as, oh my gosh. All right, so expect and accept that other people will have opinions of you. Friends, get honest. You've got opinions about other people. Your opinions are your opinions. They're a reflection of you, and your opinions come from your own experiences. So they're going to do the same thing. It's just life. 4 agreements. Remember, don't take it personally. It's about them. So just expect, other people are going to have opinions about me. You don't have to expect that they're negative, but they will, have an opinion. And there's no use in trying to avoid all judgment. It's impossible. For better or worse, again, here I go yawning, sorry. For better or worse, when we're in a social interaction, we come up with some thoughts and some judgments. Doesn't mean we're right, doesn't mean we're wrong, just means based on my experience with people who remind me of this is what I think about that person. They're going to do the same thing to you, of course. Does that mean it's a horrible thing? Absolutely not. It is not. Their opinion is their opinion. Mine is mine. And if I'm going to get upset about them having theirs, I better get upset about me having mine. All right, so prepare yourself ahead of time. Remind yourself before you go. People are going to have opinions. People are going to make judgments. Those are not about me. And I can choose not to let those soak in or take it personally. All right. Remember, too, give yourself a reminder that others will have perceptions of you, even some that may be inaccurate. This can help you remember that. You know what? Regardless of their thinking, they could be right, they could be wrong. I'm not going to get hung up in thinking about what other people think about me. I have to let that go. Take back control over your feelings. It's just like if you step on that scale and it's not giving you the reading you want, you have the choice to let it ruin your day or to say, all right, this is what's going on, and I'm not going to let this change how I feel about this day or about me. So learn to take back control over your own feelings, and you do that with the help of logical thinking. So, very true that others may have a poor opinion about you, but it doesn't have to translate into difficult emotions. They're not the same. So you might have difficult, and this is sort of like taking your own control of your own feelings. Maybe you have a negative opinion about me, but hey, boo, that's about you. Don't let it translate into big emotions that are going to make me want to cry and sit on the floor. All right. While you can't control how everyone perceives you, you can lessen your worry about it. Yeah, they're going to think something about me. I can choose to worry about it or understand that that's human nature. Has very little to do with me. One of the ways you can deal with this is to use mindfulness techniques, because learning to be in the moment, what's happening right now, helps you cope with what's going on right now, and also prevents you from stewing about it for long, long periods of time and then bringing it out and letting it kind of wash over you and drown you. So stay in the moment. Right now, I am fine. All is well, no matter what other people are thinking about me. Also, if you're a perfectionist, remember, perfectionism is impossible, not possible. So, it's not right to expect yourself to be perfect or other people to be perfect or to think about you perfectly. You can't control that. What you can control is your reaction to it. Keep in mind that anyone who thinks badly of you for making a small slip up, they've done the same thing. They have absolutely, without doubt, made the same error in behavior or judgment. Okay, plus making mistakes at work or in personal relationships can be a really good tool in personal growth or in learning. So rather than saying, oh my God, I'm this horrible human being, why would they ever want to hang out with me? They already think I'm stupid. It's an opportunity to grow, to say, wait a minute, do I have any reason to think that's what they're thinking? No, I made that up. Is there any reason for me not to go up and tell this man my name? No. Do what you can to prevent that, if at all possible. Probably the best thing you can do is to work on your own sense of self-confidence and build your confidence. Because remember, right where we started, those people who have more confidence take on other people's opinions less. And then reflect. So maybe in the moment, because we're not going to change this immediately or overnight. So in the moment, you're like, oh God, they think I'm awful. They think I'm worthless. They think I'm lazy. I can just tell by the way they're looking at me. Maybe later on, you can go back over that scenario and ask yourself some hard questions, because this is how we learn. Is it true that they were thinking that? Well, I don't know. They didn't say anything to me. They just looked at me that way. Or maybe talk over the event with a therapist or a good friend who knows you, and they can help you understand that you came up with this all on your own and you hurt yourself with that. Remember, you are who you are. What you care about is important, and how you want to enjoy life is important. So if you want to give other people all that power over you and let their thoughts, that you don't even know what they're really thinking, if you want to let what you think they're thinking put a damper on you, that's on you. But you can overcome that with the help of a therapist. So work at being confident in who you are. Stand up for yourself. Again, you have to learn to stand up for yourself. You have to have some safe people with whom you can share. This is how I interpreted what you did. This was the thought I put on that. And then work through that. Again, a therapist is really important, because, friends, you're not a mind reader, so don't try to be. You don't get to decide what other people are thinking. Okay, so research finds that the most well-adjusted people have the least amount of insight into what people think of them, meaning you don't know what they're thinking. You're making it up. Knock that crap off. All right. Caring about what remember, it's natural and normal, but remember, you decide how much weight you give to what they're saying, and you are your own worst critic. If you're thinking badly about yourself, you're probably thinking other people are too. All right, so what can you do? You can find people that are safe to talk with. It might be a therapist, it might be a good friend. You can practice. This is what I think you're thinking about me. Is that right, or am I making that up? You can remind yourself that you're not a mind reader, but mostly work on yourself. So consider getting help for this. If you find that you're really hung up on what other people think about you and it's really getting you down. So I'm going to sum up what I've said and shared with you by using information from a therapist named Michael Formica. He wrote an article and he reminds us to look inside of ourselves. Look within. Quit looking outside of yourself to determine your worth. Look within. And if what you're seeing on the inside isn't good, then find a way to get some help to improve your self-thoughts and your self-esteem. And then when we try to figure out who we are, if we're doing it by letting other people's thoughts determine that, our vision's going to be more clouded, and we're going to get more and more away from our authentic self. We can only find our authentic self and stand up for our authentic self by digging deep into figuring out who we are and who we want to be, and then reminding ourselves we don't want to give what other people think too much credit for how we feel. All right, and also remember that mostly what we're doing is we're just repeating our own self-criticism, our own negative self-talk. It's all fear-based. And so we're thinking other people are thinking what we're already thinking about ourselves. So that's not a good thing to do. We spend a lot of our time disapproving of ourselves, and then we assume that other people are also assuming bad things about us. So why not start approving of ourselves? This is from that Michael Formica. He says, why not start approving of ourselves and see how that works out? What a great thought. What a great thought. So take home messages. Stop worrying so much about what other people think by developing a healthy sense of what you think about yourself. And then if you're having trouble with your self-talk and your self-esteem, get help. Life, my friends, is too short to wait. It's too short to waste. So here's your weight loss information activity from this episode. Besides encouraging other people to watch this, make yourself a note that says, what I think about myself is what matters the most. What I think about myself is what matters the most. And then post it somewhere where you can see it so that you are reminded. How you think about yourself is what matters, and you can only improve what you think about yourself. And you can only do that with therapy and other forms of healthy coping skills, changing your self-talk, etc., etc. We've talked about this in many, many episodes. So let's start today. Post the note. What matters is what I think about myself. Next week, we're going to talk about people pleasing. If you worry about what people think about you, you might very well be a people pleaser, and that's going to get you nowhere in a hurry also. So these two things are very linked. So listen next week as we talk about, are you a people pleaser? And if so, what you can do to become less of a people pleaser to your own detriment. All right, my friends, remember, in this podcast, we're talking about you. We're talking about your life, your health, which is your responsibility. When? This day and every day. Thanks for spending your time with me, and join me again in next week's episode. Also, get online and join the Berry Aftercare Full Community Program, BARI Aftercare.com. See you next time. Bye.